Hi everybody! Today we're back working in Girls with Flowers, and hopefully today we'll be able to finish off this picture with a bit of luck. And I'm going to start with the flowers down here because those are fairly simple first of all. I'm going to try and keep it fairly simple anyway, and I'm just going to start off by giving them a base coat of the lemon yellow. Just going to give all the flowers a base coat of this lemon yellow. I'm just checking back to the illustration every now and then just to check which are flowers and which are leaves, because there are a few leaves even down here. Always best to be sure. I think I might need to dig out a smaller brush to try and do the details on these little flowers and leaves up here. Might have a liner somewhere that I can use. Do the flowers in her hair as well. Right, so I found a slightly thinner brush. Again, not the best because most of my brushes are old. And I'm just going in with the second colour now, which is a yellow ochre. Just straight yellow ochre. And in the illustration on the side, this seems to be going in sort of stripes, little strokes down the leaves. So I'll try and emulate that a little bit. Although I know my colours are slightly different, but still. Well, that's still slightly damp. I'll try and blend it slightly just with clean water. Doesn't matter if this kind of shading isn't the same on every petal because they are flowers. They're natural, so they are all going to be different. Not a lot of room on these tiny ones to be super precise, but I'll try my best. Still trying to blend it very slightly while the yellow ochre is still damp. You can still see those little lines and marks, but it's not quite as obvious. Yeah, I think definitely some new paintbrushes are in order. In the illustration, these ones don't seem to have much shading at all. So I'll try and be a bit more delicate with those. I have actually managed to give one of these leaves a base coat of yellow, but I thought that was a flower, but we can go back and correct that when we come in with the green. Moving on to the flowers in her hair now. Still with the yellow ochre. And these ones would have more shading. They're on the shadier side of her head. In the illustration they do have more shading, so no need to be so delicate with these ones. And these ones would be over on the sunny side, so slightly less. Again, they'll probably be white gel pen highlights. I do like my white gel pen highlights. Though of course they're not necessary, and yeah, you feel you don't need them, don't use them. Okay, now let's not forget these ones up in that corner, because I probably would if I didn't remind myself. These are bigger flowers, they've got very obvious lines on them. Blend those a very tiny bit. Because they are fairly obvious in the illustration on the opposite page. And if there's any way you feel that we've maybe blended a little bit too much, we can go back and add a little bit more. In my little test flower, I did go back over with the raw sienna for a little tiny bit of shading in these very centres, which I probably would kind of keep to these lower flowers, I think, because these on this little sprig at the top don't have a lot of shading at all on the illustration across the page, so we'll try and keep those kind of the same, because I do like the effect it's got going on there, looking more delicate as it goes up towards the top. So yeah, I'll try and replicate that. I actually forgot these little flowers here. There we go, I think that's all of them. Need a little bit more blending there. Maybe a little bit more there too. And this is a little tiny bit of the burnt sienna. Let's see how that. Yeah, maybe just right in the centres, I'm thinking. Give the flower a little bit more depth. I don't want to go too crazy with my shadows like I did on the top. There's not loads of this darker shading on the flowers that are further away, so I'll try and be a little bit sparing with it. Try and blend it out, though it will dry a little bit lighter, as we said before. We're getting a lot more delicate as we move up this stem with the flowers, so try and gradually use less shading. There still seems to be a little bit around this little dot in the centre, so maybe just keep to there on the further flowers. Still adding a little bit of depth to the centre there. Maybe shading where there's petals going behind each other. Bigger flowers would have a bit more. This one's pretty dark. Seems to be a bit more shading in this kind of clump of flowers there. I think kind of to draw attention to her face. So we'll do the same with ours. Okay, here's the other side of her head. They don't have much shading because they'll be in the sun. Okay, now the stems are pretty dark, but because we're working with watercolours, we'd have to start with the lighter colour and build on top of it. So I'm gonna mix a bit of the raw sienna with the burnt umber and keep it fairly watery. So we've got a kind of a light base layer going on. That's not bad. Okay. Let's give a base layer to our stems. These twigs here tend to get, on the illustration, they're getting a kind of a greenish tinge to them. But I think if we put a layer of green over the top of this base, kind of brownish colour, then we should be getting somewhere similar. Gonna make our colour a little bit stronger now down here. Is that something right? I think it needs to be more different to the colour I've got in her hair, so what I might do is add a little bit of grey to it. See how that looks. Part of the branch there is really quite dark on the illustration, and these ones here. Yeah, I think that's working a lot better with grey, isn't it? That would be the burnt sienna, the raw umber, and a little bit of Payne's grey. That's just the raw sienna and the burnt umber with no grey. Let's try and like that bit. Okay, darker shadows towards the bottom of the branch. Showing these flowers. Yeah, I think that's working. Getting your hand towards the top. That little sprig of flowers at the top. The colours are getting lighter and the branch is getting more of a greenish tinge towards it. So I'll try and ease off with the shadows towards the top of the branch. Let's give this some shadow to go behind the main kind of trunk. A little bit darker one. That's very dark. I'll need this one to be fairly shadowy, it's going behind. Just adding to those shadows there. Sometimes it's a bit hard to tell what it's going to look like because it will lighten as it dries, so you have to kind of guess how much lighter it's going to get. Still fairly brown on this twig. It seems to be that twig there that's getting the kind of greenish tinge to it, so I'll work on that in a little bit. I'll do the green. Very light kind of wash of the burnt sienna because it seems to have kind of a reddish tinge to it down here. Okay, I'll try and add a little bit green into these leaves. While the branches are drying, I think I'll start off just with the light green, just fairly light with that. Pretty watery so that the colour will dry pretty light. These leaves do seem to be a fairly bright green, and the green in the background is more of a bluey green to try and make them stand out, I suppose, so try and work with that. just over the one that I made yellow. There we go. Now is green. Okay, to give that kind of greenish tinge to that branch at the top, I'm going to use a little bit of the olive green, which is kind of browner. It's a browner kind of green than that leaf green, which is pretty yellowy. So I'll try going over this kind of sprig here, see if it gives it a bit of a greenish tinge. Yes, that's what we want. Maybe a little bit on this one as well. Okay, there we go. There is some leaves that have a darker. That's not too bad. That is the sap green that's mixed with a little bit of the Payne's grey. Just to give a little bit of darker shading to some of those leaves. Trying to follow where the shading is on the actual illustration. It seems to be mostly a darker green there. This one does. That one is dark. This one. It's not too bad. Skip these ones here, all the shading. The top is dark. Missed a little bit of brown there. Just pop that in. And there we go. There's probably a few more bits I've missed here and there. It's a little bit twig there. But overall, yep. Oops, we've missed a little bit of green. Where were we here? There we go. And there. Okay, we'll have to let that dry. Let's see if we can mix the green for the background. And you can see that I've drawn in this circle here, just used a stencil and drew in this circle because there seems to be a circle that's kind of like a moon or something over the other side. So that's kind of a pale yellow colour, so I'll try and mix up something for that moon. Oh, it's just inside this circle that I've drawn, so then I might be able to rub it out. It makes more sense to switch to a bigger brush. This is a radiant green. It's mixed with a little bit of white. And I've made it quite watery because I'm going to try and get some of those nice watercolour effects going on here if I can. It seems to be something along those lines. From the right colour, I hope. Oh well, I'm committed now. It's more of this kind of a yellowy green, so we'll try. I have no idea how this will work out because it's not watercolour paper, so it's a lot harder to predict what kind of effects we're going to end up with. Let's see how that dries. As I've said before, if all else fails, we can shade over it with pencil. And this is just a practice. I'm not expecting this one to be a masterpiece because it's been quite a while since I used my watercolours in a proper way or a serious way. But it is a very good test for the paper. There seem to be some more yellowy kind of ochre colour coming in along the top. Here. Same the moonlight, I imagine. So we'll add some of our moonlight colour. Some more yellowy green, which seems to be what's going on. Try and get some sort of bloom effects going on, where the colours kind of bleed into each other. Those kind of blobby effects that I like. Try and get some of that going on. I'm going to take this green behind the flowers because in the illustration it's more of the ochre colour, but I'm not sure that will really show up, at least on the camera. Try and blend that some more into our viridian kind of colour as we come down. Seems to be about the same height as it's coming in here. Maybe that's just the angle I'm looking at it. Seem to be coming into more of a yellowy green further down here. I've probably mixed that a little bit differently, but it doesn't matter. Let's try a very tiny bit of yellow down there. That's a very light, very watery lemon yellow. Just add your water on top of that a little bit there, and then blob some yellow on top to try and get a few, see if I can get a few watercolour effects going on, even though the paper is not quite made for it. We'll see if we can make it happen. Should give a bit of an interesting effect. It's definitely not what's going on in the background of the actual illustration, but yeah, it's got to the point where I just want to have some fun with it now. Yeah, we've got some granulation going on there. Yeah. That's what I like. Now we're cooking. Maybe we can get something going on this side. It is pretty buckled this side, but we'll try. Try to get some of that yellow. This is the lighter side anyways. Maybe we could do some up here. Put some yellow around the moon. There we go, let's give it a nice kind of moonlight effect. Okay, so on the illustration on the other side, this frame is kind of a slightly darker yellow than the main lemon yellow of the flowers. But I thought, yeah, to have fun with it again, I would try and use this golden yellow from this paint set. It's kind of a metallic sort of watercolour, so I thought I'd try and see how that would actually work. I can always shade it with another watercolour, or hopefully I can shade it with another watercolour or pencil if we don't think it works, but I thought I'd give it a go. See how it turned out. It might be a bit too similar to these flowers, but we'll see. I'm hoping being metallic it will look different. Definitely looks a lot more shiny in the light of the lamp, so yeah, I'm thinking that might actually work for the frame. Going to bring in the white gel pen and just add a few white highlights to the flowers, especially these ones down the front. I'm trying not to get my hands in that gold frame. Of course, you don't need to add the gel pen if you're happy with how it is. It's just the way I like to do it. The whole point is having fun, right? It is handy though to cover up little bits like that when my green has gone over the edge of the flower. I'm not the neatest, I'll admit that any day. As a final touch, I thought maybe bring in gold gel pen. This is just a cheap glitter gold gel pen that I got from the pound shop ages ago. And I'm going to go over the little stamen, are they called stamens, in the middle of flowers? Again, just for a little bit of fun. Not essential. I I've just rubbed out the circle we put in for our moon there very slightly, and I'm going over what's left of the line with the white gel pen just to disguise that a little bit, make it look a bit more like the illustration. Okay, I'm going to be calling it done there, I think. It was really fun to get back into watercolours after such a long time of not using them properly, and this book is gorgeous, so I really enjoyed working in there, and it's going to be super fun to try and do the rest of the pictures in there just using the watercolours. I will have to be a little bit more careful with my water because I have buckled the paper there, and it is starting to peel very slightly, so yeah, it's one way you have to be really careful with the watercolours, but I think if I do wait for the layers to dry and then work on top, I should be able to get away with that. And yeah, I'm super happy with how she's come out. Even these shadows on her collar that I was a bit unsure of, I thought I went a bit overboard. I think it worked out all right. Now the rest of the picture is done, and yeah, I'm really quite happy. So I hope you all enjoyed watching. Take care, everyone. See you in future videos. Bye.